I want to do a follow-up on the steering stem lock that we talked about in Shop Talk number 1. That is, what I should do, if anything, to attempt to restore this piece. After thinking it through, looking at my options, reading some of the comments, what I decided to do was put it in a lathe, and then I turned it. I think you can see the edge there, the rim, because that was all knurled over from being damaged here. Looked like someone had pried on it. So I turned this outside in the lathe as far down as I reasonably dared. I didn't want to go too far. And then I also just did a surface cut on the face. That is, surface meaning I came in with a tool like this and went across and leveled this surface out. I went as far as I could go without removing the number stamp where my thumbnail is. That's about as far as I dared go. I decided not to fill it with JB Weld and then machine it back. I was afraid, frankly, that I was going to affect this number stamp, the key lock number, and I didn't want to lose that feature. I moved the locking cylinder over so that I could get it away from the face here, put it on some fine emery cloth on my faceplate, and did a number 8 kind of shape like this to clean that face up. I think that's a reasonable compromise. I then soaked the whole lock mechanism in acetone to clean it out really well, let it soak for a day or so, dried it out really well, and then I lubricated it with dry powder graphite, which is what you really should use for locks. I've had this container of graphite literally since the 1970s. I don't use it that often, primarily for things like this, but I lubricated the lock mechanism with powder graphite, and it works perfectly, as you can see there. That's how it's locked. That's unlocked. I think it turned out reasonably well, and that's a decent compromise. Then took the rivet that holds it in place, which was quite rusty, and I smoothed it off with a file. This is a little bit beat up too. You can, I think, probably see it's got a little peening that was done to it. I cleaned it up, derusted it, and then I re-zinc plated it. That is a fresh coating of zinc on there, and then I polished it back so it looks really good. And of course this rivet will go in this hole ultimately and hold it in the bike. So the next step will be to install this in the steering stem. It's really very simple to install the lock. You can see the hole right there where my middle finger is pointing to. That aligns with this hole in the cylinder that locates a steering lock into the head. And there's a notch here that aligns, or a indentation here that lines up with this notch. So it's simply a matter of putting a lock in like that, taking the rivet, and that rivet goes in that hole right there to secure the lock like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap this rivet in with a brass hammer to seat it. I should really use a smaller hammer than this one, brass hammer. Unfortunately, really don't have one, so, but that's all it takes. So now the lock cylinder is secured in the frame. So right now this is in the unlocked state because the cylinder has not protruded, or the pin. I put the lock in. Now you can see that pin extended, locks against this welded on feature on the steering head, and the steering can't move. To unlock it, I do the reverse, and I can of course lock it on the opposite side the same way. That's really all there is to it. That's it for this little follow-up on the steering stem lock. As usual, thanks for watching.